A 28-year-old German tourist was caught on CCTV at an airport in 2014, and within seconds he was seen running out of the terminal without his luggage, becoming the last confirmed moment anyone ever saw him. His name was Lars, and this took place at Varna Airport in Bulgaria. His passport, phone, and money were all still inside the bag he left behind, meaning he walked away with nothing he would need to travel or survive. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Lars had been involved in a bar altercation and complained of ear pain and dizziness. Friends later reported that he had been acting paranoid, claiming people were following him. A doctor at the airport had even advised him to get a brain scan before flying. No one was chasing him when he ran, and he never returned to board his flight, making his sudden exit even harder to explain. Search teams later used drones, helicopters, and trained dogs to comb the surrounding forest and coastline, yet no body and no confirmed trace of Lars was ever found. It remains one of the most mysterious cases to this day. This mysterious CCTV footage captured a strange moment. Take a look. As someone was biking through the streets, they were suddenly lifted or pulled back, and their bike seemed to be pulled into the air. It's unknown what the weather conditions were. Could it have really been a strong wind? Maybe, but the area around them doesn't seem affected at all. The footage remains a mystery. A 5-year-old girl named Oriana Clinton went missing for over 13 hours on December 6th, triggering an Amber Alert. Passengers on a city bus received the alert, and a man noticed a girl matching the photo sitting with a woman. He told the driver, but the bus kept moving while the girl remained on board. The driver called the police, and the man got off the bus. Officers soon stopped the bus and found Oriana. She had last been seen with her father, Nicholas Clinton, who later arrived at a shelter without her. Who the woman with her was and what exactly happened remains unknown. But who knows what might have happened if that man hadn't been so alert. This short clip spread fast on TikTok after viewers noticed something hard to explain. A woman stood alone inside an elevator as a fixed camera recorded her without cuts. Over several seconds, her hairline moved, and her face began to change in a way that did not match normal motion. As the elevator continued to move, her features shifted until they no longer matched the person at the start. When the doors opened, a man stood in the same place wearing the same clothes with no visible break in the footage. Analysts could not give a clear explanation, leaving the clip unresolved. It's either really good editing or something we can't explain. On December 8, 2023, 55-year-old Gainor Lord, a married mother of 3 from Norwich, England, left her job unexpectedly. At 2:45 p.m, she walked out of the Jarrold department store, more than an hour before her shift was due to end. CCTV footage showed Gainor moving quickly through the city centre, passing Norwich Cathedral and weaving through busy streets, her pace noticeably hurried. By 4:01 p.m, she was captured on camera for the last time, walking along St. Augustine Street. After that, she vanished. Hours later, at around 8 p.m, police were alerted by members of the public who made a disturbing discovery in Wensum Park, a riverside green space. Scattered across the park were Gainor's belongings: her mobile phone, glasses, rings, and clothing. An ID found in her handbag confirmed they belonged to her. Then came a development that escalated the search dramatically. Gainor's coat was recovered from the nearby River Wensum. From that moment on, the investigation shifted. Specialist underwater teams were deployed, and an extensive search of the river and surrounding parkland began. Police described Gainor's actions earlier that day as out of character. Despite repeated public appeals, there was no evidence of third-party involvement. The CCTV timeline, the placement of her belongings, and the recovery of her coat led investigators to conclude there was a high probability Gainor entered the river. Still, the questions remained. Why did she leave work so suddenly? What caused her to rush through the city that afternoon? After a week-long search, the case came to a tragic conclusion. Gainor's body was recovered from the river. Norfolk's senior coroner, Jacqueline Lake, later ruled that Gainor died by misadventure, concluding she had likely entered the water without intending to harm herself, but that her actions ultimately led to her death. A routine day ended in tragedy. A security camera recorded a late shift inside a children's clothing store. A single worker stayed late to close the shop, but as she prepared to leave, this happened. Something invisible pulled her hair from behind. She immediately turned around, but no one was there. She checked the footage, hoping there was a simple explanation. Instead, her fear was confirmed. Her hair was clearly pulled by something unseen. No one else was inside the store, and there was no wind. I have a feeling she won't be working late shifts anymore. A man receives a phone alert about a voice coming from a room in his house. He walks toward it and hears a clear, childlike sound that seems to come from inside. Months earlier, his daughter had died after a short illness. The room linked to the alert is the one she used to use. When he reaches the room, the sound stops. He checks the security footage to confirm what he heard, and it turns out it wasn't just in his head. Was it his daughter? This footage comes from a police body camera during a nighttime traffic stop. The driver, Joe Collian, was asked to take a sobriety test. The results showed he was not intoxicated. But during the stop, the camera captured something strange. In the background, a dark shape moves across the frame at extremely high speed. It has a rough human outline, but the way it moves doesn't match a person. It's gone in less than a second, and no one at the scene reacts to it. Only the camera records the movement, which makes what happened much harder to explain. A Ring door camera recorded a man moving between apartment doors one night. The video shows him checking each entry and lifting doormats as he goes. A knife is visible in his mouth while he searches near the floor. It looks like he's searching for keys, which are often left under doormats. This suggests an attempt to gain access without force or noise. But then why the knife? Imagine someone opening your door with a knife in their mouth. That's terrifying. Maybe it's time to find a better spot for your keys. Now, if you're enjoying my videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps me creating new stories every week, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. In the early hours of the 8th of December 2000, Trevor Deely, a 22-year-old man, vanished without a trace from the streets of Dublin in what would become one of Ireland's most baffling missing person cases. Earlier that night, Trevor had attended his work Christmas party. After leaving a nightclub in the Leeson Street area, he made an unexpected decision to return to his office to collect an umbrella, as heavy rain had set in and a taxi strike was underway. Security cameras captured Trevor inside the office building at around 3:35 a.m., briefly speaking with a colleague before preparing to walk home. Moments later, CCTV footage recorded him outside the building, engaged in a short conversation with an unidentified man dressed in black, a moment that remains one of the most critical and unsettling aspects of the case. At 4:14 a.m., a bank CCTV camera on Haddington Road captured Trevor walking in the direction of his home. This is the last confirmed image of him ever recorded. Despite extensive Gardaí investigations, repeated public appeals, renewed searches, and enhanced reviews of CCTV footage years later, no trace of Trevor has ever been found. Authorities have managed to identify and speak with some individuals seen on the camera that night, but the man who spoke with Trevor outside the office has never been identified or located. More than 2 decades later, Trevor Deely's disappearance remains an active investigation. And still, the question lingers. What happened to him after that final walk through the city? Let's hope that one day, the golden tip finally comes in. A man named Kelvin Shala was browsing random videos when he came across some strange footage. The clip shows an ambulance driving toward a hospital, suggesting someone inside was in serious condition. But then, he noticed a shape near the ambulance, appearing out of nowhere. He couldn't explain what he was seeing, and no one else online seemed to notice it. He reposted the footage, wondering if the figure might be the soul leaving the body inside the ambulance. But what was really happening inside that ambulance at the time is still unknown, leaving the idea just a theory. This security camera was pointed toward a cemetery entrance across the street. One night it recorded something unexplainable. A small girl with long black hair, wearing a white dress, slowly walked into view. She moved straight toward the cemetery gate. But instead of stopping, she appeared to pass through the closed metal gate and disappear behind the wall. The camera continued recording. She never came back into view. No one was seen entering or leaving the cemetery afterward. So who, or what, was that girl? Accompanied by her friend Kate and Kate's boyfriend, Sarm Heslop set off on a long-term journey through the Caribbean. The group traveled island to island, visiting St. Lucia, Guadalupe, Dominica, and Martinique, living a nomadic, adventure-filled lifestyle at sea. 7 months into the trip, Sarm met Ryan, a 49-year-old American boat captain who chartered his luxury catamaran, Siren Song, to wealthy tourists. The two began dating, and Sarm stayed aboard the yacht. After around 3 months, the relationship became serious. Sarm then made a major decision. She accepted work as a chef on Siren Song and completed her very first charter on March 7, 2021. That same night, CCTV captured Sarm and her partner walking along a dock before boarding a small dinghy. They were heading back to the catamaran, anchored in the next bay, after an evening ashore. The footage would become the last confirmed sighting of Sarm Heslop. Roughly 6 hours later, in the early hours of March 8th, she was reported missing from Siren Song. Despite extensive searches of the surrounding waters and coastline, no trace of her was ever found. As the investigation unfolded, authorities began raising serious concerns. Investigators stated that parts of the timeline provided by her partner did not align with other evidence. Those discrepancies quickly became a central focus of the case. According to her partner, he discovered Sarm was missing at around 2 a.m. local time, but his actions afterward raised further questions. 2 other boats were anchored in Franks Bay that night. Both captains later confirmed that they were never alerted to any emergency, neither that night nor the following morning. Why no distress call was made, why neighbouring vessels weren't contacted, and why crucial hours passed without wider alarm, all remain unanswered. Years later, police made the rare decision to release the dockside CCTV footage publicly as part of a BBC documentary titled Missing in Paradise, Searching for Sarm. Investigators hoped that fresh eyes might notice something overlooked, but more than 4 years later, no new breakthroughs have emerged. What happened after Sarm stepped back onto that boat remains unknown. One morning, a man living in Malaga, Spain, stepped outside and noticed something strange. The lamppost on his patio had been cut clean in half. Confused, he checked his security camera footage from the night before. What he saw only deepened the mystery. At the exact moment the lamppost breaks, a bright orb of light can be seen moving across his yard and passing directly by the lamp. So was this just a strange coincidence caught on camera, or did the footage actually capture whatever cut the lamppost in half? And if so, what was it? On the night of October 18, 2023, Hodei Igiluz, a 23-year-old from the Basque Country, was spending the evening out in Antwerp, Belgium. Hodei was living in the city after securing a job as an engineer at the port of Antwerp. That night he was out with friends, celebrating the birthday of his friend Kevin. It was supposed to be a normal night. Music, drinks, laughter. In the early hours of the morning, after heavy drinking, Hodei left the club alone and began walking back toward his home. At the time, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But the next morning, friends tried to reach him. Calls went unanswered, messages were never read. At first they assumed he was asleep or recovering from the night before, but as the weekend passed, a growing sense of unease set in. Then Monday arrived. Hodei didn't show up for work. That's when alarms were raised. His friends and family contacted police and reported him missing. Investigators immediately began retracing his last known movements, and that's when the CCTV footage changed everything. Around 4 a.m., cameras showed Hodei walking alone through dark, nearly empty streets. Moments later, a man suddenly rushed him and stole his wallet. Despite being attacked, Hodei didn't stop to seek help. He kept walking. Only minutes later, 2 more men assaulted him and stole his phone. Now injured, intoxicated, and without any way to contact anyone, Hodei continued wandering through the city. Witnesses later reported seeing a young man matching his description near the River Scheldt. He appeared disorientated, confused, and struggling to find his way. That was the last confirmed sighting of Hodei Igiluz. For weeks, police searched Antwerp, but despite extensive efforts, no answers emerged. Nearly 2 years later, in 2015, the case reached a tragic conclusion. A large floating swimming pool anchored on the River Scheldt was being removed. During the operation, the structure unexpectedly sank. When it was lifted from the water, workers made a devastating discovery. Hodei Igiluz's body was found trapped beneath the floating pool. Investigators concluded that after the assaults, Hodei likely wandered toward the river in a state of confusion, and somehow ended up beneath the structure, unable to escape. A truly heartbreaking story. May Hodei rest in peace, and may his family and friends continue to be surrounded by strength, support, and remembrance. A security camera inside a primary school recorded something strange, which led Brenna, a former employee, to post the footage on TikTok. She said several children had been afraid of the play area before the recording, claiming there was a creature there. This security footage might offer some proof. It shows a toy starting to move on its own, and soon after, more toys begin to move. After the video circulated, some children refused to return. Brenna also left her job at the school soon after, saying it no longer felt safe. In November of 2025, Dan Davis, a 59-year-old lighting designer, was living and working in Chicago. Dan was well known in the local nightlife scene. He worked as the head lighting designer at the Marionette nightclub on 115 Bourbon Street, a job he had held for years. On the night of November 25th, he had been involved in a serious car accident, a head-on collision that caused heavy damage to both vehicles. Emergency responders arrived at the scene, but despite the severity of the crash, Dan refused medical treatment. Police body camera footage later showed him speaking clearly and answering questions, but struggling to keep his balance. After leaving the scene, Dan finished his shift and left the club at around 1:15 a.m. But by the next day, something was clearly wrong. Dan failed to show up for his scheduled plans, and then he missed his shift at work. When no one could reach him, his manager filed a missing person report and contacted Dan's daughter, Wendy. What they found inside his apartment was deeply unsettling. The windows were open, the refrigerator door was open, a plate was shattered on the floor. Security footage from the building showed Dan leaving his apartment again, this time around 11 p.m. Cameras across the city later tracked him walking through several neighborhoods. He appeared alone. Then, the footage stopped. After that point, Dan Davis simply vanished. Despite reviewing traffic cameras, transit footage, and city surveillance, investigators were unable to determine where he went next, or what happened after those final moments on camera. To this day, his disappearance remains unexplained. If you have information on Dan's whereabouts, please contact the Chicago Police Department. TikTok user TalYT519 shared baby monitor footage from late December 2025. The video shows a child's bedroom, nothing unusual at first. Then a blurry shape appears in the lower right corner. Moments later it disappears, while the rest of the room remains completely still. Tally said there were no pets, no other people, and no camera issues. Nothing that could have been moving inside the room. Viewers later found posts on her account where she mentioned her older brother, who died years earlier. Even though the footage has no clear explanation, some believe it might be connected. Reddit user Hokolo posted a strange story. By noon, their father noticed a new mark on the front wall of a house in Gainor Lord, which prompted him to check the CCTV footage for any activity in the area. The video showed two men stopping near the wall. The first man paused to adjust his clothes, after which the second man stepped forward and made the mark. Their faces didn't match any local residents, raising questions about their identity. Both men then left the area, leaving the marked wall as the only evidence of what had occurred. On January 9, 2026, 15-year-old Thomas Medlin left Stony Brook School in St. James, Long Island, around 3:30 p.m. and ran to the nearby Long Island Railroad Station. He took a train to Manhattan, and surveillance cameras caught him inside Grand Central Terminal around 5:30 p.m. that same day. Later that evening, his last confirmed sighting on camera was on the pedestrian walkway of the Manhattan Bridge at around 7:06 p.m. His cell phone showed its final activity at 7:09 p.m. About a minute later, a nearby camera captured what looked like a splash in the water under the bridge. Thomas was never seen leaving the bridge on foot, and there's no confirmed sighting of him after that. Investigators have looked into whether any online contacts or platforms, including Roblox, were connected to his disappearance. Early speculation suggested he might have been meeting someone online, but police say there's no evidence linking the game or any social platform to what happened. Thomas was last seen wearing a black jacket with red stripes, dark sweatpants with white stripes, a black backpack and glasses. The circumstances of his disappearance remain unresolved, and the police are still searching for answers. Let's hope Thomas will be found soon. A home security camera recorded a woman stepping outside her house. Nothing seemed unusual until, moments later, when a bright flash filled the frame and the woman vanished from view without any movement or warning, as if she'd been pulled forward. The camera continued to record the empty space, making it clear that nothing was blocking the lens or the scene. After several minutes, the same bright light returned, and the woman reappeared in the exact same spot. This time she looked confused and unsteady, turning her head as if the surroundings were no longer familiar. The video later surfaced online, but without any explanation from the woman, the incident remains a mystery. On November 17, 2025, Humberside police released CCTV footage to help locate Sam, 24, who had been missing since the 6th of November. He was last seen near Axholme Court on Plimsoll Way in Hull, close to the Humber estuary. The footage shows two people walking along Ocean Boulevard on the Victoria Dock Promenade at roughly the same time Sam disappeared. Police believe they may hold vital information about his movements that day. Since Sam went missing, officers have reviewed hours of CCTV, carried out house-to-house inquiries, and deployed specialist teams, including search dogs and underwater units, to trace his last known movements. Sam's family and the police have made repeated appeals to the public, urging anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. The circumstances of his disappearance remain unknown, and the investigation is ongoing. This family received multiple notifications from their home security cameras. When they checked the footage, what they saw left them shaken. A human-like figure can be seen moving around their home, on all fours. No one in the family recognizes the person. To this day, they have no explanation for who or what was outside their home that night. In September 2007, Andrew Gosden, a quiet and intelligent 14-year-old from Doncaster, England, vanished, leaving behind one of the UK's most enduring missing person mysteries. On the morning of September 14, 2007, Andrew did something completely out of character. Instead of going to school, he left his home early, walked to the train station, and boarded a train to London. Before doing so, he withdrew just under £200 from his bank account, nearly all of his savings, and purchased a one-way ticket. Security cameras later captured Andrew arriving at King's Cross Station around midday. He was alone. That image, Andrew stepping out of the station, is the last confirmed sighting of him. Despite extensive searches, public appeals, and nationwide media coverage, no verified trace of Andrew has ever been found. For years, investigators explored every possibility, from a planned runaway to foul play, but without evidence, the case slowly went cold. Then, in December 2021, the investigation took an unexpected turn. 2 men were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking, linked to information uncovered during a long-running review of the case. Police seized and examined electronic devices as part of the inquiry, raising hopes that long-awaited answers might finally surface. However, in 2023, both men were released without charge. No evidence was found that could connect them directly to Andrew's disappearance. Today, Andrew Gosden's case remains open. His family continues to search for answers. What happened to Andrew Gosden after he walked out of King's Cross Station, and why did he never come home? A Reddit user named QuietLingonberry509 posted some home security footage seeking an explanation. The footage showed a glowing object on a veranda at night, even though no one was in the garden. The object wasn't a beam of light and was only visible in infrared mode. Its motion looked smooth and steady. Many commenters offered explanations. Infrared cameras can make small insects or debris appear large and bright when they pass close to the lens. The most likely cause was a spider, moth, or other bug moving near the camera. Still, it's easy to see why the footage could be confusing. Now, this next video is waiting for you with more disturbing and creepy encounters.